everyone remembers Level 5, right? You know, the company that made the Professor Layton series, made the Ni no Kuni franchise, and essentially has stopped all operations in the United States. Yeah, that company. Back in 2001, Dark Cloud released for the PlayStation 2 and garnered positive reviews for its unique approach to combat, dungeon crawling, and its city building function. This was actually the first game Level 5 developed after the company formed in 1998. Dark Cloud has gotten one sequel, and has also gotten a re-release on the PS4 with trophies and widescreen capability. Now, why exactly are we discussing Dark Cloud if it has gotten a re-release and good reviews? Well, it got left behind the other games Level 5 has made. It also has aged a little. But I'm here to talk about it. Let's unearth this game and its secrets. Akihiro Hino, the CEO of Level 5, wrote, produced, and designed Dark Cloud. Originally conceived as a launch title for the PS2, Dark Cloud was shown as a demo for what the PS2 was capable of. Development began almost immediately after the company was founded, with development lasting 2 years. The game was released 9 months after PS2 came out in Japan on December 14th, 2000. The game went into localization and released on May 29th, 2001 in North America and September 21st, 2001 in Europe. A sequel was released in 2002 in Japan and 2003 for the rest of the world. The sequel improved gameplay features and had 2 protagonists. Now, what the heck was the story of Dark Cloud? Well, Mr. Titlecard will tell you. Bad guy spread evil, so good guy go save day.
A long, long time ago, when the 2 moons were shining, there are 2 continents in the world, living separately but peacefully. In the east, there was an advanced civilization. The development of technology had brought prosperity and wealth there. In the west, the people lived in harmony with the natural world, coexisting peacefully with the spirits and animals around them. Then came the time of darkness. A great evil was unleashed, and a dark cloud overshadowed the western continent. Whole villages were destroyed. Entire families mysteriously vanished, and a strange and magical adventure began.
The game opens with a ceremony being shown where a bunch of people dance to summon a Dark Genie. Out pops Will Smith. The Dark Genie then follows Colonel Flag's orders and begins to destroy the world. The Fairy King uses a protective spell, making all the people and buildings turn into magical orbs called Atla. Tone, our main character in this, is given a device called the Atla-Milia, which allows him to get the Atla back and restore the world to its original state. You are now the Chosen One, the only one who can fight the darkness and recover all that was lost because of the Dark Genie. As you go through the first dungeon, Tone is challenged by Seda, the King of Westera, and Tone loses as he saves a cat. Seda gives Tone a changing potion for doing so. This potion is then used to change the cat into Xiao. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of Xiao. You keep going through the cave and you fight Dran, the god of all beasts, and the guardian of Nobrine Village, but he has been controlled by the Dark Genie. Tone and Xiao defeat Dran, and the guardian tells Tone to find the Moon People, as they will help him find the Dark Genie and stop this madness. Your quest is to defeat the Dark Genie and restore the world back to its former glory, saving it from the Dark Cloud. Now, what the heck is the gameplay like in this magical adventure? Mr. Titlecard, if you wouldn't mind. Gameplay! Dungeon crawling by day, city building by night! There are 2 different types of gameplay, a dungeon crawling section and the city building section. Each has their own distinct features, and we are about to get into it. The dungeon crawling section features randomly generated dungeons with Atla balls that you must collect for the city building section. Instead of your character leveling up, your weapon levels up, but at the same time that weapon can lose durability and can break, giving it a risk over reward factor. Each character uses different weapons. Tone uses swords, knives, and daggers. Xiao uses a slingshot. Ruby uses a magic ring. Goro uses hammers. Ungaga uses staves, and Osmond uses guns and blasters. Osmond is cool. I love Osmond. Just look at him. Why? I don't know. He's cool. He's badass. He's a moon person. What more do you need to know? Each dungeon is randomly generated, and each time you enter a dungeon, forget the last time you were in there. It didn't happen. You have your normal features, HP, weapon durability, and a thirst meter. We all need a thirst meter. You replenish your thirst by going to fountains and water holes in dungeons, and also by having a canteen. Now you can level up your weapon, giving it more attack power or better attack speed, or even an elemental ability. The world is your oyster, and it is barren. The dungeon crawling part of the gameplay is polished, but the more interesting section of gameplay is the city building part. As you go through the dungeon, you gain more and more parts of the town you are rebuilding. And by parts, I mean houses, lamps, people, merchants, and animals. All parts will lead to events when a building is finished, and once a town is finished, you head to the next town you will recreate. Now you can create the towns any way you want, but be warned, you do have to walk around in them, so make sure you can actually navigate through the town. This isn't The Sims. As you put people in their places, they will tell you what they desire on their property, and as God basically, you shall grant that wish. Get to it, boy! You have 6 dungeons and 6 towns to recreate, one even being on the moon. The game takes around 31 hours to beat, so if you have a lot of time to enjoy the music and characters. Which brings me to characters and music. A very different look and sound for Level 5. Level 5 nowadays has a certain look and feel to each and every title in their library. Most look comparative to Studio Ghibli or more anime-like, with it being less jagged and much smoother around the edges. Dark Cloud's art style is quite a departure from anything Level 5 has done. Even the sequel looks wildly different because of its art style. Dark Cloud is much darker in both atmosphere and tone. The characters add to that feel. The characters, especially Goro and Ruby, are very different from most RPG characters. Goro is a big burly man with a hammer. Ruby is hot. She uses rings. She is Beyonce. The world is very dark and brooding due to the story, but I wish there were moments where you could go back and play through the game again without the dark genie. But that won't happen. The music is very reminiscent of fantasy and sci-fi movies, using many tropes when it comes to those types of music. The main theme encompasses the feeling of adventure and exploration, whereas the dungeon themes get dull as you hear them so often throughout the game. The overall soundtrack is considered a fantasy bop for me. The music is very much the opposite of the world, invoking the overall feel of a fantasy book such as The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. The 50-track OST is very good, and throughout the video you have heard the songs being played. I very much recommend you look into the soundtrack. Reception and sequel. Good and gooder. Dark Cloud received generally favorable reviews with averages from 8 to 9s across the board. Next Generation gave the game a 2 out of 5 stars as writer Blake Fisker stated, "Not quite Zelda, not quite ActRaiser, not quite fun." I understand. A sequel was put into development immediately as the initial game released in Japan. Dark Cloud 2, or Dark Chronicle as it is known in Japan and Europe, released in 2002 in Japan and 2003 in North America and Europe. The sequel had many improvements and had 2 protagonists, Maximilian and Monica, who both were favored much better than the original's cast. We may or may not talk about that game, as it is known much better than the original. Originally, the game sold quite poorly, with only 19,615 copies sold in its first week in Japan. By 2001, when the game released overseas, with 800,000 copies sold worldwide. By July 2006, the game had sold over 670 copies in the United States and Europe, estimating profit of over $22 million. The sequel, the franchise sold over 1 million copies, both physically and digitally. In 2016, both Darkcloud and its sequel were released onto the PS4 as part of its PS2 collection. Both games were upscaled to 1080p and had trophies added in. Now, why exactly was this game forgotten? Simple. Level-5's future titles sold much better and their overall appeal garnered much more worldwide recognition, even having a franchise release with cutscenes done by Studio Ghibli, Ni no Kuni, and its sequel, Ni no Kuni 2: Revenant Kingdom, as well as Yokai-Watch, a multimedia franchise that had gained multiple sequels in an anime and a manga series, as well as the Professor Layton series with 7 titles, a crossover with Phoenix Wright, and many other titles overshadowing their humble beginning. So, with that, Darkcloud has been Unearthed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.